Oh, and her mother, or their mother is dead. I knew it. Oh,
It's a woman, and she's dead.
someone else is dead here too.
I fear we have discovered the delinquent mother.
Nah, bro, dead with the cakes out is pretty crazy, bro.
So who's this other person?
Maybe the dad.
It's a male.
This bag has nice clothes in it. And money too.
Yoink.
Why would she bring this stuff here?
She probably came here for her husband. Yeah, because they said the dad is dead, so this is probably the dad, and then the mom came here to see her husband, to see his, his remains. And then she got slammed by the machines too. Unfortunate. But yo, dying cheeks out is terrible, bro. Bro, like, what is with this game, man? Like, I feel like there's just certain moments. Like that other chick with magic, for example. Oh, bro, like, just like little, like, goon material moments, bro. It's so stupid. It reminds me of anime, right? Like how, like, animes, especially these days, because, like, back in the day, bro. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, there's probably been, like, goon material in anime, since the beginning of anime, but, like, back in the day, I remember, like in the early 2000s, honestly, bro, like, really only Bleach was doing, like Bleach or, like, Fairy Tail were the only, at least from the mainstream anime. Like, I mean, I'm sure, you could dig to find, lesser known animes that had a plethora of goon material, right? Like, there was, like, High School DxD, Zagoon anime, for example. But anyways, right, a goon, fan service, all that type of stuff, right? But anyways, though, like, for the most part, like, at least when it came to, like, mainstream animes, right, like even like One Piece, like, I mean, I know, like, the character Nami, like, Nami and Robin are, like, the only two characters who for the longest time, would have fan service in One Piece, until post time skip One Piece, when Oda decided to start making every female character just be a Nami reskin with, with some chest enhancements, if you will, right? But before pre-time skip One Piece, right, it was really only Nami and Robin. Now we get a bit of fan service, but then other than that, you didn't really see much fan service in One Piece. Now in Bleach, you saw plenty of fan service with Rangiku and Yoruichi, and any other female character not named Rukia. You saw fan service, right? But yeah, not named Rukia, or like that one chick that was Toshiro's best friend growing up. But anyways, like, the point I'm trying to get at is that in the 2000s, though, for the most part, right, with like a couple of characters here and there, like Tsunade or whatever, or Rangiku or Yoruichi, with the exception of a few characters, like, most animes, like mainstream animes, like, didn't really have much fan service. Like, if you wanted if you wanted goon material, you had to watch some hentai. That just was what it was, right? Like, it was like there was a clear separation between, hey, like, here's some hentai, and then here's some, proper anime, so to speak, right? Here's a regular anime with story and action and emotion and whatever, and then here's hentai, and like, the two were separate. But nowadays, bro, like, there's so much. I'm gonna go full screen for this, since, like, the game's really, not too important. Yeah, like, since this is a yapping session, so we're, full screen for the yapping. Yeah, nowadays, though, like, just from what I've noticed, and I mean, to be fair, I'm not really keeping up with many anime these days anymore, right? But, take Fire Force, for example, right? Like, there's such a blatant amount of goon material, even though, like, everything else in Fire Force is awesome. Like, I mean, I'm gonna get around to marathoning the new season, I genuinely love, everything else, right? But man, my goodness, bro, like it's just so OD. Like they literally have a character that's there just for goon material where like she somehow some way just slips on the banana peel and then boom all her clothes come off and then everyone around her always like slips on banana peels and lands inside of her coochie. It's like bro like this is so freaking OD, right? It's so OD. And I feel as though, you see a bit more of that stuff with more and more mainstream animes, right? Like just that extra bit of goon material being added to the series. And don't get me wrong, right? Like I kind of get it. I kind of get it because at the end of the day, I think the main demographic is technically like 14 to 18-year-old boys, right? Like that is like the legit main demographic for most mainstream animes. The legitimate main demographic, even though people way older, like myself, even though people way older watch these series, right? Especially if you grew up watching the previous generation of mainstream anime, and then you're still you still have that desire to continue watching anime because it's just something that's become part of your DNA pretty much. You watched as a little kid, watched as and then with how long these stories go on for, because these stories can literally go on for decades. It just becomes part of your everyday routine, waking up or waiting, or like every Thursday, like literally, like there would be times where every Thursday, boom, a new episode would come out of Naruto or One Piece or Bleach, right? Whichever one it is. And then it gets to a point where, you cross over to start watching the manga. And so you're waiting for that every Thursday or every Wednesday, whenever the releases would be. And then it gets to a point where you can't even wait that long anymore. Now you're trying to find the spoilers online. You're trying to, read all the text of what of apparently what happens in the chapter, and then you're just waiting for the chapter to get released on a legal site, like on a on well, I mean, like on a questionable site, if we're being honest, right? Like on a, you're waiting for the chapter to get released on a questionable site, if you will. And and then like you're not even bothering, waiting for the proper website, the proper legitimate publishing website, excuse me, to put out the chapter. You're going straight to the questionable website, if you will, for the chapter releases and all that type of stuff. But anyways, to reel it back, right? At the end of the day, though, like the main demographic, I believe, is still, even though there's a lot, like once again, there's lots of older people watching it, it is still probably majority, like that range of 14 to 18-year-old boys. Even though women watch these shows too, in betweeners watch these shows as well, right? People in their 20s and up, 20s and 30s watch these shows. The main majority demographic, even if it's by like a small majority, right? Still the majority is 14 to 18-year-old boys. And so, you understand that, okay, like what does every 14 to 18-year-old boy want to see, right? Like once upon a time, a century ago, I myself was 14, to 18 years old, you know, as a guy, right? And so like you understand that, okay, like every 14 to 18-year-old boy wants to see some chest. It just is what it is, right? And so I do believe that's the reason why they put so much of it into series nowadays, so much fan service, so much goon material into these series, is because like they know, okay, like the young teenage boys watching this is, they're gonna, it's gonna hook them in, right? Like they're gonna be flipping through channels or or checking out random manga, and it's gonna hook him in to see an anime chick with her chest popping out of her t-shirt. You know, like it is what it is. So like I get it from like a business standpoint, right? However, man, like as you get older, bro, as you get older, it's like, dude, like if I really want to see something, right, like there's fully established sites, you know, like just for that stuff. Right, like if you're really trying to see something, bro, like there's fully established sites, right? It's like you don't need, especially when you get older, bro, like you really don't need these 16-year-old characters, because that's what it is too most of the time, right? Like because the demographic, I believe because the demographic is that 14 to 18-year-old range, they make majority of the characters within the show like 16 years old, right? Like they boom boom, they put them in the middle, they're like 16, 17 years old, and then they make all the female characters boom, chest popping out, you know, like like they gonna be, you know, the next generation of OF models or something. But I mean, it's absolutely crazy, you know, like the fan service that they put into these characters, and then you know, majority of them end up being, like I said, like 16 years old. And it's one of those things though, where as you were older, like one, you know, as you're going into your 20s and beyond, right? You're like, man, like I really don't need a 16-year-old looking like that. It's a no, thank you, bro. It's, I much rather, like, you know, can we get some 20-year-olds, 30-year-old, you know, women, you know, who are, who look like that. Like, if you're gonna make characters look like that, at least put them in their 20s or 30s or something, bro. Please, you know, if you're gonna make characters have their chest popping out of their t-shirt, please, you know, age them up a bit. You know, it can't be that hard to do, right? To to at least, you know, have characters be college age and beyond, you know. Like it surely can't be that hard to do. Have them be actually grown women if you're gonna try to if you're gonna try to make them look grown and let them actually be a grown woman, then let them have the age of a grown woman, right? Like nobody cares about, like no one complains about Yororichi, you know, full grown woman Yororichi looking like a full grown woman. Right? Like no one complains about that, right? When you're making your character 16 years old, it's like, hey man, you know, like it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird because then too, right? There's the real life aspect of it as well, where you know you like, even though you understand the business aspect of like, okay, like these mangaka majority are men, right, who were once upon a time a 16-year-old boy themselves. So you know you kind of get that, okay, you know, they're making manga for 16-year-old boys, and so you know they're making the characters all 16 years old so that the 16-year-old boys reading the manga can have a better time relating to it, etc., etc. But at the same time too, you know, the real life aspect of it is like, hey bro, you know, you're in your 30s and 40s making 16-year-old female characters that got their chest popping out. Is like, you know, come on bro, like it's a little bit much, man. It's a little bit much. And so you knew, and then you know, once in a blue moon, you know, one of those mangaka gets in trouble for, you know, certain activities, and it's like, come on bro, come on bro. And so, you know, it just it makes you question certain things as you get older. Like obviously when you're 16 years old, you're definitely not gonna freaking care, you know, like you are, like I said, you're the target audience, you're 16 years old, the character is 16 years old. It's like a, you know, the perfect imaginary matchup, right? But when you're in your 20s and up, you know, you're like, this feels kind of weird. Like I'm not, you know, I don't need to see that from 16-year-old characters. Can we please get some adult characters, please? Right? And then it doesn't help when the few times there are adult women characters looking like, you know, having the whole supermodel body and everything like that. It doesn't help when the mangaka makes them super duper weird, right? Like what's her name, May from Jujutsu Kaisen? How apparently she's got like this weird relationship with her younger brother is, just very an inappropriate relationship, and it's just, it's given Game of Thrones, vibes in the bad way, right? And then the little brother is like 10 years old too, by the way, which makes it even worse. It just it ain't right. It really ain't right. It's like, bro, there's no reason to make your best looking female character be a complete freaking weirdo. It's no reason to do that. Because once again, it's like, hey, like no one's complaining about her appearance, right? Like, she's a full grown woman in the series. No one's gonna complain about her having, a full grown woman's physique. But then you make her a complete weirdo. It's like, come on, bro. It ain't right, bro. It ain't right. It's not the vibe, man. So yeah, that's my thing. I don't know. It like I said, back in the day, it really didn't feel as though there was that much fan service in animes and mangas. It felt like, if you really wanted to see something, hey, you had a whole category of hentai, you could go watch. If you wanted to see some anime, something somethings, go watch hentai, buddy. Right? With the exception of a few series, right? Like Fairy Tale has, had its massive amounts of fan service from day one, as well as another series that I never watched it, but I heard of it. High School, it's like High School DxD or High School of the Dead. But yeah, that's another big fan service one from back in the day. But other than that, though, like once again, most things are very tame, right? Very, very tame in the fan service department. There would only be like, a few female characters that would be super fan servicey, and then that'd be it. Right? All the other female characters would be pretty tame, and then with the exception of, Bleach, right? But yeah, not too much fan service for most series. But then as the 2020s have rolled around, though, it feels like you really start to see that fan service. Just every series, almost every series has to have it, right? With a couple of exceptions. Like, I don't really, well, it's like the fan art, for like, say, Spy X Family is something. But as far as like actual like the in series stuff, it's really not too crazy. Like with your, I think is Yor the woman? I can't remember the name. Yeah. Because Anya is the little kid, and then Yor's the mom, and then Lloyd is the dad. Yeah, so like really, yeah, like with Yor, like there's, excuse me, like, you'll see crazy fan art of Yor, but there won't really be much fan service within the actual show because she'll be, fully covered up with her in her red sweater and all that type of stuff for like 99% of her scenes. Which reminds me, man, I do hope that that series is wrapping up, honestly, because like no offense to it, like you can kind of get away like when it comes to, say, Gintama, right? You can kind of get away with the series not focusing too much on the main story for a while, like, getting with the series getting sidetracked. Yeah, you can with Gintama, Gintama was able to get away with getting sidetracked with its comedy bits, but it still would always, come back to the main stuff. And then when it got to the main stuff was next level, was pure cinema, epic storytelling, all the good qualities it had. All the good qualities that you can think of, Gintama had it. Right, when it came to tightening up and getting to the main story, bro, Gintama's main story is chef's kiss. And then even its comedy bits are super hilarious. So, with Gintama, it makes sense. And don't get me wrong, the comedy bits of Spy X Family are hilarious. However, when you have just a whole season of no story progression, I don't know, like I'm just kind of at that point in my life where I'm like I just can't do it. I just can't do it. And that honestly, like in hindsight, that might be why Gintama would always like get like canceled for a minute or two and then come back and you can't get canceled and come back and get canceled, right? Because if they're just always doing comedy bits, I'm thinking maybe that, like, even though the comedy bits are really funny, I'm thinking that maybe that ends up hurting the business, right, when fans are watching the show and they're like, okay, like, are we gonna get anywhere with the story? Right, like, are we gonna get anywhere with the story though? I'm thinking like just the older generation of fans that watch maybe tapped out on it, right? Whereas maybe younger fans were still eating it up, or maybe it's the flip side. Maybe it's the younger, right? Because you hear like with stuff such as TikTok, you hear that younger generation of people are having a bit of less, they're having less attention span. So maybe it was the flip side where the younger generation that's on the come up just wasn't really wanting to stick around with watching the comedy bits. Maybe they just wanted to get straight into the aura farming action bits. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? But even like, the aura farming stuff, like I mean, Gintama was getting canceled way before aura farming really became a thing. So I don't know. Like I'm thinking it was still maybe the older generation of people that were they're like, hey man, we're getting old, bro. We can't be waiting around 100 years for for y'all to get to the main story. Right? That's what I'm thinking. Who knows? I don't know the full business side of things, but I just know that for myself, right, when it comes to Spy X Family, nah, I can't keep watching it if it's not going to progress the story. Even though it's hilarious, it's absolutely hilarious. But if it's not going to progress the story, because that second season did not progress the story at all in my eyes. There's just zero story progression, right? Which reminds me too. Another thing is that yeah, like some of these OG series, like they basically would be on year round. And so I think even though Gintama would stay getting canceled and having to fight its way to come back on the air, it would practically be year round, right? Where I mean, yeah, like these shows have seasons, but hey, you get 500 plus episodes. You don't get 500 plus episodes by only pumping out 12 episodes a season. Right, like you don't do that. You don't get 500 plus episodes only pumping out 12 episodes a season, right? Like they were year round, and you'd be having you'd have Gintama be coming out every week practically until it got canned for a little bit. Right, same thing too with series like One Piece. I mean, minus the getting canned part. Is that series like One Piece and Bleach and Naruto, bro, like those things would be year round. I mean, yeah, they would technically have seasons where they go on a break for a bit, but they would be back up, you know, like the same year, man. Like they would basically have a summer break. Yeah, like series like Naruto, One Piece, Bleach, they would basically have a summer break, right? Where it might not literally be during the summer, but it'd be like a summer break or a winter break where they'd be gone for a few months, and then boom, they're right back into pumping episodes every single week. And that was the same thing with Gintama. I mean, that's how you get 500 plus episodes. Like I said, you're not getting 500 plus episodes only doing like these 12 to barely 20 episode seasons that you see in the more modern days of anime. Which is another thing too, man. I wish animes were, had that dog in them to be coming out year round, bro. Because I'm trying to see these series get finished. Like it's getting milked, man. It is getting milked because like the manga will be done for ages, and then you're just gonna be waiting. For example, Jujutsu Kaisen, that manga's been done, right? That manga has been done now, right? But you're gonna be waiting for years for it to get finished in the anime. The manga's been done now, bro. I think it's been done what since last year, right? If I'm not mistaken. Like yeah, it's been done since last year, I think. Maybe even the past couple of years. Let me check. Let me check. When did Jujutsu Kaisen end? Jujutsu Kaisen. Yes, yeah, it ended. Yeah, it ended. September 2024. Yeah, so we're coming up on a year since it's been done. Coming up on a year, right? And then Demon Slayer, bro, that ended in 2020. Demon Slayer went from 2016 to 2020, right? And we're just now getting into the final stretch of it with the movies. 5 years after it's ended, we're just now getting into it, into the final arc, bro. Like that's kind of crazy too, right? Like once yeah, once the show, like I understand, the first season, okay, you want to see the first season, see if it's going to be successful. Once that first season takes off and it is successful, bro, hey, we need to have it come out year round, finish it up, wrap it up quick. Wrap this mess up, bro. Wrap this mess up in like 2, 3 years, buddy. That's what we need, man. That is what we need, bro. At least for me. Maybe I should say that's what I need. That's what I need, honestly. So yeah, that's how I'm feeling with like these newer animes, bro. I'm like, man, y'all are taking forever to finish them, bro. Taking forever, man, forever. Like it should not be more than like the 3 years after the series finishes that we finish after this after the, yeah, it should not be more than 3 years after the manga finishes that the anime finishes. Yeah. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. It should not be more than 3 years after the manga finishes that the anime finishes. Yeah, like by 3 years after the manga finishes, hey, we need the anime to be over too, buddy. Straight up. Straight up, brother love. Straight up. So that is my thangalanga when it comes to these newer series. So yeah, I'm trying to see Spy X Family get wrapped up so they can just pump out the anime to the end. I don't really I ain't trying to watch a full season of just of what's practically filler. Like it might be canon material, but it's practically filler if it's not advancing the story, right? Like the way I see it is this. You know what series should do? Like they should wait, right? These mangas should wait until they're finished before they get an anime, right? Then when they get an anime, boom, just like full speed to do your first season, see how that first season goes. If the first season is successful, boom, full speed to the finish line from season 2, right? Like season 2 needs to be year round, full speed to the finish line, all that good stuff. And then once you finish the series, right? Once you finish it, that's where, if the series is really popular and you notice that it's got like a lot of fan yeah, if it's really popular and you notice it has a lot of fan material, bro, that's when you do a spin-off series, right? Once you finish the main series, that's when you do a spin-off series. You do an alternate universe spin-off series where the characters are now and like if the main series is set in modern day, do a spin-off series where it's set in medieval times. If the series is set in medieval times, do a spin-off where it's set in modern day. Right? Like you just simple as that. Like you completely flip the time period around that the main series is set in for your spin-off series. Yeah, completely flip it around, and then uh literally tell the fans, hey guys, send in your fan fictions, right? Send in your fan fictions that are set in this time period. We're putting the time period in modern times, we're putting the time period in medieval times, whatever the case may be, right? Send us your fan fictions for this time period, and the best ones that we use, we will give credit on the episode, and we'll even send you a care package of signed signed stuff, right? Whether it's signed plushies or like what are like those bobblehead things. I can't remember. It's not exactly bobbleheads, but like those those toys that you see people have, like you watch like some streamers and have their toys on their shelf in the background, stuff like that. I can't remember what the stuff is called, but anyways, right? Yeah, like you'll be like, okay, like we'll send you a bunch of signed items, basically, right? Whether it's some T-shirts, whether it's some some toys, whatever it is, right? We'll send you some signed items, and boom, we'll credit you on the episode, right? We'll credit you at the end of the episode, right? Yeah, like that's all you have to do, right? And then you set up an official website for it, for the fans to send all their fan fictions in. Set up an official website. You got to sign up with your email, and maybe put your address on it, whatever the case, right? But send your fan fictions. You have it up for a specific period of time, right? You're like, okay, from June 1st to July 1st, we're taking this is the website to submit your fan fictions, and then after July 1st it's closed, no more. We're gonna go through them, right, from July 2nd to August 2nd, however, for however long it takes, right? We're gonna go through your fan fictions one at a time. We're gonna pin the ones that we like the most, that we want to use, and then if we use it, we're gonna give you credit at the end of the episode, and we'll send you a care package of signed items that for for signed items from the cast and the crew, all that type of stuff. Boom, right? And man, you will have an absolute flood of fan fictions if you do that. And it'll basically be free ideas, right? It'll literally be free ideas, right? You could have it be like, hey, we're not paying you for this, but we'll give you credit and we'll send you a care package, right? Yeah, like and then boom, they sign the waiver or whatever it is, and you're good to go. And then you just animate it, right? Yeah, you animate it in the normal style of the show, and then you don't even have to, because it's all alternate universe stuff, like you don't even have to go too crazy with the animations, right? Like you don't have to do movie quality. You can just do regular quality, and people will still have a great time with it, because it'll be the chance to possibly see their own fan fictions come to life, in a sense. So yeah, I'm sure, like, if the series is popular enough, I mean, just from the series, yeah, popular series doing something like that, that could end up changing the landscape of anime for the most part, where instead of doing filler, animes go, okay, you know what, we're not going to do any filler, we're just going to focus on getting to the finish line, and then do our alternate universe, which would, like I said, I think that would honestly change the landscape of the anime scene, the anime industry, if you will. Yeah, would definitely change the landscape, because like something like Demon Slayer did that, where they already have an alternate universe mini series with the characters going to high school in the modern day, and then the Hashira are teachers, and Tanjiro and the boys or students and yada yada yada, right? So they already have that going on a bit, right? And I have seen, like just browsing through Instagram, browsing through Twitter, like I have literally seen fan fictions, fan art um, of the characters in that sort of alternate universe, right? Where they're just, they're just going about their day, and like, you'll see the fan pairings of Tomioka and Shinobu, for example, or Sanemi and Shinobu's sister, and all that type of stuff, and Tanjiro and what's her name, Kano, Kano, yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, because I think Shinobu's older sister is Kane, and then the younger adopted sister is Kano, something like that. And so you'll see all the different pairings and Obanai and Mitsuri, and so on and so on, right? And it'll be just this alternate universe fan fiction that the fan artist has put together, and the characters are getting into shenanigans, and then they're kissing on Christmas or the 4th of July, whatever, has fireworks going off, right? Whatever's got people celebrating, they're kissing on the holidays, whatever. And it's fun to read, and you can only imagine what that would be like animated, and I'm sure it would get a ton of attention, because when you watch the alternate universe clips that the actual studio does, you see the views and it's like, oh my gosh, this stuff got millions of views, bro. So I'm sure if they actually dedicated a legitimate amount of time to it, a serious amount of time to it, just using fan fictions that the fans send in, bro, OMG, I'm sure the numbers would be crazy. I'm sure of it. And that would be a great way just to continue the series, right? Like that ends up, making sure everybody gets paid, right? Like, you're still, the Demon Slayers series is officially over, yet you're still getting paid, because you're still making the alternate universe series stuff, right? And so you're able, the voice actors are able to come in, the artists are able to come in, the director is able to come in, everyone's still able to get some work out of it, even when the show's over, because now they're doing everything in an alternate universe, which I think would be really, really cool. So once again, it would absolutely change the anime industry if they started doing that. That's what I would do. Like if I was running a studio and I had all the resources, whatever, that is exactly what I would do. I'd be like, okay, guys, we're gonna focus on getting to the finish line, and after this finish line, hey, we're gonna let the fans know we're taking their fan fictions and we're gonna animate the best ones. Right now, of course, there's some fan fictions that are a little bit, minus a little bit, more like super bit. They're very much not safe for work, very much not something that you could probably animate, right? There's some that are definitely doing a bit much, right? They're having Tomioka get all tied up, as Shinobu is, doing some gymnastics on it, so to speak. That's not what we can be animating, right? We can only animate the wholesome stuff. We can only animate the wholesome stuff, right? But with the wholesome stuff, you can still give in to those fan pairings that a lot of the fans buy into, and you can go from there. And then you can even and there doesn't have to, because it's all alternate universe, there doesn't have to necessarily be any sort of continuity to it, right? Like you can do something for one fan pairing, and then maybe you do something for a different fan pairing, right? Like there could be the fan pairing of Tomioka and Shinobu, and then there will be the fan pairing of Shinobu and Mitsuri, and then there'd be the fan pairing of Tomioka and Sanemi, and then there'd be a fan pairing of maybe Sanemi and Shinobu, or so on and so on and so on, right? Like you can do, anything really. You can literally do anything, obviously, try to keep it wholesome, try to keep it tame, don't go too crazy with it. But you can do dang near anything with it, right? And then you can even have more action-based, fan fictions where I'm someone, for example, who believes that Tomioka should have fought, what's his name, Doma, right? They had the perfect parallels to fight each other. So you could do something there, kind of what if series ish, where you have what if Tomioka came to the rescue against against Doma? What if it was Tomioka coming to save Shinobu, making sure Shinobu doesn't get killed, whatever the case may be? And now, I mean, I don't know if you go back to like the demon, like the official, Demon Slayer time period, or if you do that but in the modern day time period. I don't know, that's a like a game time decision the director has to make, right? But it's still something where either way you can work with it, right? Either way you can work with that, with a Tomioka versus Doma in some sort of capacity, where you have the two of them square off against each other and duke it out. So stuff like that, it's what I'd be thinking of if I'm running the studio. And you can probably do this for any mainstream series that has enough fan fiction within the fan base. Like I'm sure there'd be plenty for Jujutsu Kaisen, for example. Now, would it all center around Gojo and his boyfriend? Absolutely. It would absolutely center around that, 100%. Like that would be 99% of the fan fictions that you would get sent. But, even then, you could still make something happen, right? You'd still make something happen, and then just for the character, for the fans to see the character Gojo again would be bigness. All right, for all the Gojo Glazers to get their boy back, for even in an alternate universe, would be bigness, and that would be something that would do huge numbers. So I feel as though there's really no downside to it. Honestly, yeah, there's really no downside to it. The studio gets to make some more money out of it. The fans get their fan service moment. There's no downside, right? And that you didn't mess up the story because, hey, you've established, hey, this is all in an alternate universe. This is not the main real story in any way. This alternate universe, it's basically filler, but it's after the show's already over. There's really no downside to it. So yeah, that's what I would do. That's what your boy would do. Brother loves and brotherlets and bruvvies. But anyways, yeah, that's enough yapping for now. Yeah, that's kind of like a bootleg podcast moment right there. Yeah, that might be. So yeah, let's get back to the game.